I can think of no better fitting song than the frickin' Melee intro. Hi, everyone. Uh, I hope you're doing well. I had a whole intro planned out, but it just actually literally slipped out of my head. Hi, how are you doing? Let me go ahead and put on the Super Mario World music. A bit of a tone shift, sure, but we haven't done a tier list in a while, have we? Hello, everyone. Hi. Let's do this. We'll make sure it's quiet enough. How's it going, Cake? How's it going? I got a haircut today. I got a bunch of haircut actually. Like I normally have like super duper long, or not super long hair, like definitely past my shoulders, but I hadn't gotten a haircut in forever. And I finally got one and I feel so much better. It's still like long-ish, but you know, I just feel flippy. Really? Can't see it. Well, that's because it's on my meat space head and not my cartoon character Big Titty Rabbit. Let's take a look. Anyways, can you guys hear the music? Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? I actually probably need to like loop this playlist so it doesn't stop halfway through. There we go. Turn off loop? Loop video. Oh, you can loop the whole playlist. Okay. Teehee. It's good. It's good. Cake's Flesh Sona. That is rancid, but also really fucking funny. My Flesh Sona. Also, Holiday. 20 gift subs. 20 gift subs. We just started. We haven't even touched a single controller, and Holiday's over here giving me money. Thank you, Holiday. Thank you for all the gift subs. The greatest of all time. I'm putting him on the tier list. All right, let's get started. We got a whole bunch of controllers to get through. I added a couple of my own because I wanted to talk about them. I was gonna like play video games tonight, but I just didn't feel like it. But instead, I feel like talking about it. So you know what? Let's just get started. Slate, thank you. Thank you very much for the sub. Oh, 19 months. Awesome. Art of PB drawing his cringe human, so that's awful. What an awful thing. I will never do that. Hey, thank you for the year-long sub for BZ. S rank. Let's start with the Atari, right? Well, what's a good like middle-of-the-road controller? One that we can like judge everything else off of, you know? What do you consider like the most default controller? One that's like not good or bad. Because I don't want to skew the list. Chibi Bell, we are not. That is not true. Probably the Xbox 360. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say, let's start with the Xbox 360 controller because it is just like the most default controller. It's not particularly good at anything. It's not bad. It's definitely like the main controller for a PC for a long time. I don't dislike it. It works. It has a really shitty D-pad though. Are those vibrators? No, you silly goose. Those are PlayStation Move controllers. Hey, Captain Odie, thank you. 13 months, nice. Xbox 360 is A tier. It's good at what it does, but it's not premium. Again, it's okay. I don't dislike it. I'm gonna put it in B for now. I kind of prefer the PlayStation controllers personally, but all right. Now that we have our middle of the road, just controller, baseline controller. Let's start with this guy. We got the Atari 2600 controller. I have never handled one of these that wasn't stiff. And maybe it's because I've handled new ones that are, you know, for those like clone stuff, you know. I don't know where they would release like the Atari flashbacks. But I've never held one that looked great. You know what I mean? It's not bad. It's not bad by any means. it definitely gets the job done. You know? It's got a big red button. You know what? Let's actually look at the controllers before we rank them. Atari 2600 controller. We're gonna do this professionally. All right, let's take a look at this boy. What? Why'd they take it so close? It has the same energy as like one of those cat pictures where they take a picture of their nose like really close up and it just warps it. Okay. I think this is a real one? Yeah, this is a real one. Okay. S-Noodle Juju, thank you for continuing your sub, by the way. Nice. Very nice. Alright, so, something I also want to point out is that we're going to be judging them based off of, Holiday. I'm on the first one! Holiday! Fuck! Good God, man, thank you. Okay. So, we're gonna judge them based off of aesthetics too, right? That's kind of loud, isn't it? The music? I can turn it down just a tiny bit. I don't want it to be too loud. As long as you guys can hear it. That's fine. Holiday really likes this controller. Okay. I do like the aesthetics of it. There's something about, like, old Atari stuff that just looks cool to me, like they're trying to look futuristic. Which, you see a lot in, like, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Not later, though. Oh! We got a bouncy. But anyway, really stiff stick, doesn't feel great. It does have a big red button. I'm gonna go ahead and... Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm gonna go ahead and give it, like, C tier. TBH. Like, you could just be... You could give it a D tier, but... Yeah, you know, we're gonna need more tiers, aren't we? Add a row below. We need an F tier. Because you know we're gonna need it. Let's make it gray. The boomer bias is... We'll put it in D tier. It's nothing... Wow, you really can't see it. I've put it in D tier. Just take my word for it. We should do the joystick controllers first. That's actually a good idea. Oh, I had a drink. Thank you. All right, what the hell is this? What is that? It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look like anything I've ever seen, though. I know this guy, though. This guy actually feels pretty good to play. This is for the NES, isn't it? I swear I've held one of these before. More like double D tier, am I right? Oh boy, this is gonna be a long night. I'm gonna put this in C tier. You know, I'll put it in B tier. It's a very comfortable joystick. You know, it's got the button. It's got the button on the top. Any like, oh, hang on, let me move my ear for a sec. Any joystick that has like these ridges that are like ergonomically designed for human hands, I automatically enjoy. I don't know what this is. I'm sure it's okay. We'll put it in D tier for now. Yeah, it's C tier. I don't know what it is. But let's get the joysticks out of the way so we can talk about the real controllers. Also, this list has a picture of BoJack Horseman. I don't know why. So, anyways, 5200. These things don't work half the time. Maybe my bias for AVGN is showing, but Atari 5200 controller. Let's take a look. We gotta look at the controllers. Okay, look at this guy. I don't hate the way it looks. Like, it looks awkward to hold. You know, I know you have like 2 buttons over here. I think there's 2 buttons. Yeah, there's 2 buttons on the other side too. I have held one of these before, just for fun. I don't know. It's a phone. It doesn't have a consistent place for your hand to be. You're right, Kenta. It's a very unbalanced controller, and the worst part is that it barely fucking works, right? So that one is, I gotta stop going to that page. That one's gonna be an easy F tier. It's just not a good controller. All right, let's see. I want to go by like age, you know? Oh, well, if we're going by age, the Odyssey, which is conceptually a controller. For those of you who don't know, the Odyssey is, I think, like the first game, like home game console. Let's look at it aesthetically, right? Let's judge it fairly. The Magnavox Odyssey. So it's got a knob, it's got a reset button on the controller, and it's got a knob with a little knob here. And basically, the games were so primitive that you actually had to like put an overlay on the screen to simulate what you were doing in the most like analog way possible. It's almost not fair to put this one next to other game controllers, right? Because this is literally like, oh fuck, we have to invent something for you to hold to play with. I do really like this thick-ass cord. Like, that's not a cord, that's a tube. I wonder if I could... Oh, nope. Doesn't like that. We're gonna talk about the console itself later, but look at this fucking thick-ass cord! God, I love it. That's a pipe. But, you know, let's just put it in... I'm gonna put it in D. You know, because it's great for Pong. Or, I guess, pre-Pong. I don't know. Speaking of which, we gotta get through the Pong consoles. The question is... Now, we're gonna base it off of 3 things. 1, comfort. 2, what it's meant to do. And 3, how it looks, right? And if the damn thing works in the first place, which, you know, I see you, Power Glove. I see you down there. But this is just your average Pong console. It works. I think I've seen this one in particular. Are the controllers detachable? Does anyone know what this model of Pong console is? Maybe if I just type in, like, Pong console. It's literally the first thing that comes up. Telegames. Look at this guy. It gives me the smallest fucking picture of all time. I don't think these detach. Oh, no. Oh, that's gonna dock it. Because, for me, if I have to game shoulder to shoulder in an intense, sweaty Pong match with my boys... Actually, it doesn't sound so bad. We'll put it in, it's Pong. You put it in C tier. Actually, you know what? Add a row below. We're gonna do the P tier. P for Pong. Which we'll also put the Magnavox controller in. So... Is that all the, like... yeah, what is this? It also looks like a Pong console, but worse. What is that? I have no idea. It's going in P for Pong, because looking at this thing, I know it plays Pong. This gets an F tier. Because it's a telephone controller, but it doesn't detach. So, playing this thing can't be fun. It really can't be. Cake, have you ever played the original Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on an NES? I have. That game is very fun. I've... Last year, I think I actually played it for the first time, like, very early. And, early into 2023, and I beat it. Well, I didn't beat it. I think Mike Tyson beat the shit out of me. But I did get pretty far, and it was fun. Alright, let's see if there's any, like, super early controllers that we can talk about. I think that's all of them. I think now we're getting into, like, the mainstream stuff. Oh, hang on. This is a gun. On one hand, hang on, this is the Odyssey shooting gallery. Odyssey gun. It should just come with a shotgun. Now, on one hand, the games for this thing are terrible, right? If you've seen the AVGN episode, it's like shooting falling stars. It doesn't really work quite as well as something like the Zapper. But it does look like a real shotgun that you can cock. And cocking things is pretty fun. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the... Just because it looks like a gun, but we'll put it in D tier. You know what? No, it's C tier. It's a gun. Just a real gun. Speaking of guns, let's go ahead and get the Zapper out of the way. I really like this thing. The Zapper is still like a fun thing to use for the NES. Like if you're playing Duck Hunt or Shooting Gallery or something. I don't know. Now, the problem is that they barely work anymore. Right? Which I know is not a fair way to judge it, but it is, you know, as a man in 2024, if yours works perfectly, then you found a good one. I'm going to put it in B tier just because it's comfortable and it's fun. Duck Hunt is always going to be fun. Orange Zapper looks aesthetically better, TBH. I don't know if I agree. I kind of like the gray NES Zapper. I want to just to show you. So there's the gray one. I think it matches the NES a little bit better, right? Oh, here's a picture of both of them. I don't know. I can't pick one. The orange one is super cool, but this one just matches the console better, you know? Orange is pretty sweet. However, there is an NES Zapper that is the best one. And this is not a third-party thing. This is just what came with the Famicom. In Japan, it was just a fucking single-action army. This is the official one, by the way. We get this. Oh, here's a picture of all of them. I don't know about you, but that's cool shit. I as a big fan of the single-action army, seeing it be the Nintendo gun is just a lot of fun. But I like the NES Zapper. I'll put it in the B. Big iron. That's right. Alright, now we're getting to the normal controllers. Now we can actually talk about shit. We'll get to these a bit later. Alright. NES controller. Literally the symbol of video games. People are super duper mixed on this one. Right? Like, for a ton of people, this is like the most nostalgic thing there is, right? But for other people, it's an uncomfortable rectangle that digs into your hands. For me personally, I don't think it's uncomfortable, but it is extremely basic. Like back in the day, it was great. Really, like it's literally taking the stuff from the Game & Watch, you know, like the D-pad and stuff, and then making it a controller. Nowadays, it's fine. Right? If someone hands you an NES controller and is like, oh, you want to play Mario 3? You're like, yeah, sure. I'm going to go ahead and... we'll put this in a D tier, just to be fair. We'll put this in D tier, too. But, like, I'm sorry, Blue Joystick. I don't know who you are. Oh, we got to hydrate. I can take a drink. I'm going to give the NES controller a high C. You know what I mean? Like... I love the way it looks. Let's take a look. I keep forgetting to actually look at the controller. And I know all of you have seen... wow. I was looking for something earlier. Whoopsies. NES controller. Okay. I know you guys have all seen the NES controller, but I just want to talk about it, like, design-wise. Right? I think it's cool looking. I love the horizontal stripes. I love that text. The red, black, and gray. Or I should say, like, the gray, black, and then with the red contrast. It's just neat looking, right? But it's not a great controller. You know, it certainly works. No question about it. But by modern standards, it exists. Now, on that hand, let's look up... I appreciate that they put the Famicom controller on the same list, because now I have a bit of a bias with this one, not gonna lie. The Famicom controller is actually one of my favorite controllers aesthetically, just for how strange and weirdly fancy it is, right? I could talk about the Famicom all day. But at the end of the day, it is an NES controller. However, it has a couple things that are better. It has a couple things that are worse. Let's just talk about it functionally, right? On one hand, it's rounded, right? It's a little bit more comfortable to hold. Yes, the second controller you can cry into, which is pretty cool. However, it does have one major flaw that actually, to me, puts it under the NES controller. And that's the fact that the cord juts out of the side like this, where your fingers are. Now, I'm going to have to put my own biases aside. The Famicom controller is technically... If you're handing me a controller, I'm choosing the Famicom controller just because I like it. And also, I actually have an 8-bit DOE Famicom controller like right here in my hands. You can't see it, but they used to make... 8-bit DOE used to make like controllers that looked like old, like real controllers. And they have a Famicom controller that has extra buttons. And I love that. But, oh yeah, that's another thing to say. It's attached to the console forever. And the cord is very short. As an American with like American-sized living rooms, not a great thing. But I'm going to put it in C tier, just because it's the same. This is going in P for Pong. Although I will say I have handled one of these before. That is one of the most comfortable Pong controllers. You can twist it, you can make it go diagonal. It's neat. Not much more to say about it, though. Because we got a lot to get through here. Let's see. Should I go through the Nintendo stuff first, or should I go through just like... Yeah, we'll save some of this weird stuff for later, TBH. Let's go for the Super Nintendo. Which they, SNES controller, just so you guys can look at it. We have to judge it properly. Oh, the Master System controller. You know what? You're totally right. We should look at this one first, because it is literally just a slightly worse NES controller. This is for the Sega Master System, right? Now, I love how this thing looks. Okay. I just want to put that out there. I actually really enjoy the Master System. Some of the games are super duper good. But this controller is not super comfortable to hold. While it is slightly more rounded than the NES controller, this D-pad is horrible. It's not a satisfying at all D-pad, right? It also has all these ridges, like they're trying to make it look different than the NES controller. But it fails horrifically. Again, this isn't a horrible controller. It's absolutely usable. But, oh yeah, also, it's missing a start button. The start button is button 1. The Master System is fucking weird. It does not have enough buttons. As a fan of the Master System, I have to give this controller, like, a high D. Right? It's better than an Atari controller, but it's not as good as the... Yeah, let's just be fair. It's not as bad as these. But it's definitely lower than these. We're gonna have to do rankings within rankings. So the Master System gets like a low C. Like a low C. Like, I'd move it down here if I could. So, let's get into the Atari Jaguar controller. Atari Jaguar controller. Fiji's gonna be mad at me, but I've handled one of these before. This is a fucked up controller. These buttons don't feel good to push at all. Like, they don't feel like buttons that should be for a controller. It also has a fucking number pad on it for some reason. D-pad exists. It's not as bad as the Xbox 360 D-pad. It doesn't come across how strange the top is just from these photos. Yeah, that's the thing. You really have to actually handle one of these to... oh, there's another version. Where they're literally just like, yeah, look, we'll just make it a Genesis controller. This thing's not good. Like, it's the definition of scrungly. I'm putting the Atari Jaguar controller in, like, D tier, honestly. It doesn't quite get an F tier. Alright, let's get into... We did the Nintendo one. Before we do that, let's do this guy. The Power Glove. Now, as far as how it looks, this is one of the coolest fucking things in existence, right? Have you ever seen something that looks as badass as this controller? Honestly. Now, aside from how cool it looks, it's not good at all. It barely registers. It's a very... It's definitely like a toy, right? And if you look at the origins for the controller, it wasn't even meant to be like a game controller. It was made by a guy that wanted to make like... I don't know if it was like a music thing at first, and then they made it a game controller later, you know? Actually playing with it, it's just kind of annoying, honestly. It makes you wish you were just... The only thing I can really say is it makes you wish you were playing with like a normal controller. However, it looks amazing. That's not a real one, is it? What's this weird fake-looking one? What the fuck? Oh, well. This thing fucking sucks. Overall. But it looks cool. We're gonna make an E tier, just to add a row above. There's just not enough, like... Oh. There's not enough tiers. D. And we'll give it a different color, too. Why not? Hurry, cake! What do you mean, hurry? We're taking it slow and easy today. I'm making a D tier, by the way. So that I can put... that in there. Are you brave enough to post this tier list to Twitter? I'll post in the server. I don't really want to clog up my Twitter with random media stuff. I'll put it in the server, though. Alright. Power Glove gets a D tier. Can somebody look up what this is for me, please? Because I want to talk about this. Oh, we already have a D tier. That's right. I meant to make it E. I forgot. I don't know letters. The only letters I know are cup sizes. But anyways. Let's talk about this guy. Where is he? Where are you? Where are you? Ah! The SNES controller. Now, I know some of you Sega people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. That is a crusty fucking picture. Oh my goodness gracious me. Okay, there's a good picture. They seem to only have the Super Famicom version in here, which is fine. That's actually the version I prefer. But as far as this thing goes, this is like the literal best controller for like 2D games. And it's also what literally every game controller is based off of, you know? Holding this thing today, I actually have an 8-bit dough one right here. This is like my preferred way to play any game that's 2D, like even Sega games, right? Which I know. It's easily an S tier for me. It's comfortable, it does exactly what you want it to. It works for, I don't know, just 2D stuff. It's got the best D-pad ever made. That's something I want to point out. Like, not even Nintendo can replicate how good this D-pad was, you know? I don't know why they don't just use this design. It really is. Nintendo didn't just invent the D-pad, they made the best one, and it's right here. Easy S tier. And of course we're gonna have the God tier list after the God tier after. So we'll have to decide. Now let's go to the next one. This was gonna be talked about at some point. There's a lot of A lot of strong opinions on this controller. But you all know the Nintendo 64 controller, right? I imagine you do. It's not the worst controller ever. I'm not going to call it an actively... That's a knockoff. Look at okay, there we go. That's a good picture. It's not the worst controller ever, right? It definitely, like... It's revolutionary for its time. The spacing of the buttons is actually pretty decent. Although, when you think about it, the layout's literally just like a Genesis controller, right? It only has a start button. It doesn't have a select, which is a little eh. The D-pad on this thing is a little stiff. It works. There's really not too many games you play with the D-pad, though. You know, I guess you could play Kirby. You could play Mischief Makers. Maybe Tetris. But other than that, your hand, like, left hand, right hand, easy. When you're holding it like that... Oh, mine's over there. I can't reach it. When you're holding it, it's not the worst thing ever. But it does feel odd. It feels like you're holding a controller, like, cornered a little. It's not bad. The biggest problem of this controller is the fucking joystick, though. Good God, man. This thing... Listen, you play Mario Party 1, like, maybe 3 times. This thing is busted. And you know what I mean, right? That's when you, like, jam your in order to win certain games, you have to, like, put your palm in the middle and just fucking spin it as hard as you can. It's... I don't know, it's not very well made. It's weirdly experimental, and I have to give it that. But, God, they made better D-pad. Saw Trap! Ruined hands and lives. It's not horrible. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in C. Because, again, it's not a great controller. It's got a weird configuration that can't really be replaced properly. But, at the same time, I'm not picking that as my first controller. Now, while we're here, though, I actually brought this guy in myself. This was my controller. Hang on. Oh, let's move it up here. The Super Pad 64. This was actually my controller for, like, most of my life. This weird guy, right? Now, it looks horrible. I'll give you that. It looks awful. The D-pad is just strange. But the stick on this thing lasts forever. I don't know what it is. And the thing is, I actually looked it up too. I was curious what other people thought of this controller. And I went on Reddit real quick, and someone posted in, like, bad controllers, and every comment was like, what the fuck are you talking about? This thing is actually awesome. Like, it's more sturdy than the original controller. It definitely holds its shape. And the thumbstick? I mean, it's still, you know, a sharp piece of plastic, but it's actually somehow better designed. Also, I really want this gold one. Holy shit. Hey, Goomba. But no, this was actually the controller I had for the longest time. I'm putting this guy in B tier, just because of how reliable this thing is, despite how goofy it looks. Now, we're at the GameCube controller, right? Well, before I, ooh, it doesn't go there. We gotta look at the GameCube controller, right? GameCube controller. Crappy! You hold your tongue! Because that Super Pad 64 is one of the greatest controllers ever. Don't even. Alright, the GameCube controller. Now, I didn't have a normal one for most of my, like, GameCube experience, right? Because very early on it got chewed by a dog. But, I will say, the GameCube controller is an achievement in human ergonomics. There is not a controller more comfortable for a pair of human hands to hold than this thing right here. What's with all the weird, like, bootleg one? That's the Switch one. We'll just keep looking at this guy. Even though it's also, like, a weird one that's, like, two-toned. I don't know. Where's, like, a normal one? There's gotta be a normal GameCube controller somewhere. Whatever. The Smash one counts. Either way. So, it's not a perfect controller, right? The thumbstick is a god-tier thumbstick, right? This thing is just so goddamn comfortable. They learned their lesson from the Nintendo 64. The analog shoulder buttons, I wonder if we can find a picture of them. Not really visible in any of these. Oh, here we go. These, they are big. But mamma mia, are they comfortable. And they're really, really good for playing Mario Sunshine with. Now, we do have to talk about its flaws. Okay? Let's be fair. The D-pad is tiny, microscopic. You need a fucking magnifying glass to see this guy. I've never used this D-pad in any game I've ever played. People don't talk about how the button layout is really intuitive for people who don't play video games. That is true. We'll get to that. So, the C-stick, I don't think it's bad. The little nub thumbstick. You're referring to this, right? I think it's fine, because it definitely works as like a camera button, you know what I mean? For me, this is the jump button in Super Smash Bros. But, or was it? I don't even remember. I haven't used a GameCube controller for Smash in a long time. Now, this layout is really, really good for someone who's never played video games. The A button, which is what you mostly use, is the big one, and then the other buttons kind of orbit it, right? These two are typically action buttons. This is like a main action button, you know, like in Zelda or something. However, it does have a major issue that it is not compatible with most games now. GameCube games work with this guy, but the GameCube controller can't really be swapped out for other controllers. Which, another problem is that it only has the 1Z trigger, which I didn't mind as a kid. But now, when I hold the controller, it's noticeably missing another one. That's all it needed, you know? However, I will say, for what it does... And BZ did mention something important. People love this controller so much that they still make it, right? Like, people forced Nintendo to make this thing again for Smash Bros. Because there's so many people that will just use nothing else. And I don't blame them. So, I do have to put this in the S tier. It has flaws, but as just with how comfortable it is, how good it feels, it's not great for shooters, you are right, but I struggle to see much wrong with it. Yeah, flaws, sure, but it's S tier. So, on that note, let's go to... You know what, we'll do the Nintendo controllers first. Oh, we forgot a joystick. So this is the NES Advantage. Let's take a look. I would give the GameCube controller C tier. I'm not a fan. Well, I mean, you're wrong. You're incorrect, and that's fine. It's okay. We're all wrong at times. Sometimes we're the most wrong that we could possibly be. And that's okay too, Supersonic. But I still appreciate you being here. Alright, so this guy... I think this is, really fucking cool looking. I actually want one of these. I've used one before. It's not great for, like, your average game, right? Some people really like that arcade feel. For me, I think it's better to just play with a normal controller in most parts. Like, I wouldn't play Mario with this. However, I cannot deny that the aesthetics of this thing are on point. Good lord, man. Whoever designed this thing is a fucking madman genius. All the, like, crisscrossing lines, it's got the same, like, it's got the same color contrast that the NES controller, so it has, so it matches. It matches perfectly. This thing is just cool as shit. Once I get a little more space, I actually want one. But we're gonna go ahead and... As far as joysticks go, it's... what the hell. It's a good joystick. It's got big clicky buttons. It's got a stick that feels good. I'll give it a good C tier. All right. Now, here's the question: should we stick to generations, or should we do it by like company? Because I know I did the GameCube controller already, but I really want to talk about the Sega controllers. Because they're pretty interesting. Like, I didn't grow up with Sega, but I have used a lot of them. And I'm a fan. Mostly. Hold my beer. Let's do Nintendo's first. Okay, fair. Very, very fair. So we did the GameCube. Now, what's next is we got the Wiimote. Ooh, mamma mia. Oh, man. You know what? Let's take a look at it. Because we are judging things on aesthetics as well. This guy is the most black sheep of a black sheep that you could ever be. But for what it's for, it's a very good controller, right? Now, there's the Wiimote and Nunchuck, which they for some reason the Nunchuck is like its own thing. So we're just gonna count them together. Can you play other games with it? Not really. Were the games great on Nintendo with this thing? Yes. You can turn it around and you kind of have an NES controller that's a little fat on one end and a little thin on the other. I have super mixed feelings on this controller. Because when I think of it, I think of the games I play. You know? And the games that you play on this are really fucking good. Like, obviously you got things like Wii Sports and Mario Odyssey. Not Mario Odyssey. Mario Galaxy. But... And then you also have things like Red Steel 2. Which, good God, Red Steel 2 is fun. Here's why the Wiimote is bad. The Wii Remote Plus came with an upgrade sleeve to improve its ergonomics because the original design was flawed. See, I'm actually the odd one out. I hate the fucking gel cover that people get with this thing. I hate this. I've never liked it. It's super greasy. And I had to get a Motion Plus thingy, right? And it came with the sleeve, and I've always hated it. And it's like, oh, it protects your Wiimote in case you throw it across the room. Just have the strap. This gooey-ass fucking rubber. There should be a speed run on things turning yellow, because this thing would win. It never feels good. I don't know. I fucking hate that. The way the Wiimote feels by itself is absolutely fine. As far as, like, adaptability goes, it's definitely, like, F tier. You know? Because it's essentially... It's not like any other controller, but for the games that you play with it, it's really, really nice. I have to put it in... If there was something between B and C, I'd put it there. I'm going to put it in B, honestly. Because... as weird as it is fun. Also, Flippy, thank you for the renewing your sub. Ooh, 16 months. Very, very nice. We're gonna go ahead and put the nunchuck next to it as well, because for me these were like always attached. Which, by the way, random little tangent. Have you guys ever played Red Steel 2? If you own a Wii, if you're like a big Wii man. No, it has two whole-ass bottoms at the button. It's the opposite of a good controller. Those buttons are for menu stuff when you're holding it like that. Most games you play when you're holding it upright, you're not, like, using those buttons. How about Wii Fit, Cake? Wii Fit fucking sucks. I don't like Wii Fit. Wii Fit, if you want to be told how shitty you are, play Wii Fit. Chrono Mike, thank you as well. Ooh, a lot of subs tonight. Very, very happy. It's not bad. I'm going to go ahead and put it in C tier just because of its lack of adaptability. But I will say, I like this thing. Ring Fit is vastly superior to Wii Fit, because Wii Fit, you stand on the board and it tells... First off, it tells you you're a fat piece of shit. That's the first thing it tells you. It makes your B comedically fat, where it's like, oh, somebody's gotta lose some weight. Ooh, somebody's unhealthy. Practically dripping with grease over here, and your little me looks like in distress, right? And then everything you do on it, it's cruel. Like... It's a little too precise, right? If you're standing on it wrong, it basically screams at you, right? You can't do any... I hate Wii Fit. Fuck! Wii Fit is a piece of shit. Ring Fit, however, is an actual exercise thing that encourages you and gets you moving. So... Anyways. God, I hate Wii Fit. But anyways, let's move on. We just did the Wiimote. What comes after the Wiimote? We have oh, here he is. Oh, you know what? Before we get to the Wii stuff, let's do the Wii Classic Pad. I don't like this thing, personally. It works, for sure, but it is not very comfortable. The buttons are... Let's actually look at it. Wii Classic controller. So here's a good angle of it. The L and R buttons, like, I forget if it's R2 or L2. That's the pill. That's literally its own little button. This D-pad is literally just a DS, like a DS Lite D-pad. I don't know. Design-wise, I don't hate it. It's very, very Fruitager Arrow. You know? It's very of its time. Very 2000s. But I don't like how it feels. The biggest problem with this controller is that these two sticks are way too close to each other. Like, you're not going to want to play games that require the sticks, because you're going to be jamming your thumbs together. I don't like it, personally. Like, it's not E tier for me, because it does work, you know? Actually, let's go ahead and put a couple more things in E tier. Just not a fan. Alright, then we have the Wii Pro controller, right? Which was the second iteration. Way better. Although, honestly, it fixes some things, right? Oh, you get the gold one. Ah, see, I'm biased. Anytime I see something in gold, my brain goes, hee-hoo, gold. But, let's be real. It's still a little crowded. It's better than the other one. But I remember, like, the ridges being kind of weird on this. Like, am I crazy? I remember being able to feel this while I was holding it. Oh, we got a wobble. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is better, you know? We'll put it in C tier, because it works. And I'd rather use it than the original classic controller. Where did it go? There it is. Just a weird picture. We'll put it in C tier, next to the Wiimote. It's fine. Alright. So, let's get to the Wii U gamepad. So, this guy... I want to point out that this gathers dust more than anything I've ever seen. Easy A! Alright, here's the thing. The controller itself is not bad, right? I do remember the L and R buttons actually being kind of comfortable. The D-pad's fine. It feels okay, right? But actually playing games with it, like, it's a comfortable thing that playing with is not very fun. Man, you guys love the Wii U. The Wii U gamepad, huh? I don't love this thing. There's things I like about it. It's not goated. I'm sorry. It's not goated. It is the best way to play Splatoon. You are not wrong in the slightest. Splatoon was actually one of the few games I enjoyed using this thing with. Because in Splatoon 1, you could actually, like, look at the map and then, like, teleport to it while you're playing so you can have a good look. I don't know. I don't hate this controller. But I don't love it either. I'm gonna go ahead and... It's like a... It's a low B. We'll do a low B. Because as far as an actual piece of hardware itself, it's not bad in the slightest. But most of the games that you use for it aren't very fun, TBH. One particular game that I remember suffering for, above the Wiimote... It's... Okay, high C. We'll do a high C. Because the fact that they made this thing actually did make it so that... This is why the Wii U failed, right? The fact that I think about this and I can't decide whether or not I like it, that's why I put it in the C tier, right? It actively ruined games. It made Wind Waker a bit better. Big hand fellas rise. Okay, so after the Wii U... Oh, we have the Wii U Pro. Wii U... I never had one of these. I kind of wish I did. TBH. But... It's a bit better than the previous Pro controller. Like... I don't know, the buttons being down here is odd. I always thought that was really fucking strange. Because you have both sticks up here. Because it's supposed to resemble how the Wii U pad is, right? But it's very shiny. This is a controller that gets greasy as hell. And I love the idea of a glossy, pretty controller. It's okay. I don't dislike it. It's better than this one. And it's better than that one as well. I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. I think that's fair. It's not a bad controller. Alright, we have... After that... Oh! That'd be the Joy-Cons, wouldn't it? Alright. Now... I am a grown man. My hands, while I have piano fingers, and they are very soft, are still grown man hands. And playing with Joy-Cons with grown man hands is not fun whatsoever. They also break very easily. See, I actually I imported a pair of Mario Joy-Cons, right? I don't know if they made them in America, but a while ago, it's one of the only times I ever paid like a super high premium for a controller. I don't like these, if I'm really being honest with myself, and I interact with these like a lot, you know? I have to have special cases though to hold these things. They're for what they do, they're fine. But and I get it, right? You can it's two player controllers that are built into it. But everyone I know has a Switch. This is going to be a D tier for me. I really don't like that it doesn't have a D-pad. I really don't like that they break so easily. Eh, fuck it. These are E tier. Like, speaking honestly, just being blunt, these are E tier. Like, the fact that my imported red Mario ones broke on me is really sad. just, they're not comfortable. You literally need, there's so many products out there that are meant to replace or supplement Joy-Cons. So we're also not talking about the console. We're talking about the controller specifically. And if we're putting Joy-Cons next to any of these fucking suck. So E tier, sorry. Now, on a more positive note, well, again, let's take a look at it. Switch Pro controller. It is not a perfect controller, but as far as like an official Nintendo controller goes, it is easily the best one they've ever made, right? Like, ergonomically, functionally, this is a damn good controller. It's almost perfect. Like, the only thing I don't like about it is the D-pad. The D-pad just feels like a missed opportunity. And on the first gen, which is what I have, you can mush it all the way down. There's no ball in the center. Yeah, the misinput is because in the original one, it doesn't have like a ball bearing. However, using it for 3D games, this thing is actually... This thing is at the top of the list for me, honestly. I love this controller. Were it not for the D-pad, it would actually be like a god tier controller. You give this controller an SNES D-pad, you actually have the most comfortable, functional, good-feeling controller ever. We'll put it in S tier. I wish that they came in more interesting colors. I'm not really a fan of the way that they do like special editions now. Someone might be, but yeah, that's actually kind of cool. I'd actually want that. But it's an S tier for me, honestly. When I think about controllers I love. Alright. I think that's all the Nintendo ones. Wait. The Steam controller? You want me to talk about this thing? Okay. Well, let's get this out of the way. Because we gotta get through all the PlayStation controllers. I have had the displeasure of trying to play with this controller. Did you talk about the Wavebird? Oh, no. I never had a Wavebird, but I have played with it. Anytime I went to my rich friend's house, the Wavebird was amazing. I never had... I'll just... you guys like the S... I feel like I'll get crucified if I put the normal GameCube controller and not the Wavebird, because it feels the same. It feels exactly the same. It's just wireless. But it's a good controller. It's, to me, this is the rich kid's house controller. All right. So now back to the subject at hand. I have had the displeasure of trying to use this controller. And I say trying to, because this is actually the worst controller I've ever used in my life. Now, I understand its purpose, right? However, let's put it in a realistic perspective, right? The whole point is that you're supposed to use it as like trackpads, right? It feels flimsy as shit. It feels like you're holding something that'll break in your hands. And this just... I hate it. It doesn't work for me. I tried to play, like, simple-ass 2D games with this. And because my friend, when I visited him, he's like, hey, you want to try out the Steam controller? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And that D-pad looks gross. It's pretending to be a D-pad. This is actually garbage. And I wouldn't say that unless I've actually used it. They're trying to be innovative. But it's a failure on all fronts. And you have to be like some super specific hyper nerd to get this thing working. You know, because there's people out there that are like, oh, it's really great. Yeah, well, for me wanting to pick up and play a game, I shouldn't have to, like, reformat the wrinkles in my brain to use it. And it doesn't even feel good in the first place. We'll get to the Steam Deck. We'll move on to the Valve stuff. But first, we gotta talk about the PlayStation controller. Now, interestingly, they have included... Oh, here's the original. Okay. The PlayStation... The PlayStation controller is just literally an SNES controller with a worse D-pad. And it is actually that. Like, when Nintendo was going to work with them, and then they told Sony to go fuck themselves, and then out of spite, Sony made the PlayStation. They literally just took the SNES pad and made it with a different D-pad because of patents. That's an A tier control. It's a B tier. It's just an SNES controller. But the difference is that the games that I play on this feel good to play, and the games I play on this make me wish that I had sticks. So, for playing PlayStation, I'll put in C, honestly. I'll put in C. You may hate me for that, but there are better PlayStation controllers. Hey, Tyrannosaurus Rex, thank you for the 8-month sub. Heck yeah. All right. Now, I'm putting this one kind of low. It's better than this controller, but it doesn't feel good for 3D games. Weirdly enough, they've done like the first gen and the second gen of the PlayStation 1 controller. It has like the concave sticks. These are like super rare, right? Why is it on this list? I don't know. The DualShock 1, we're just going to put them both in B. The DualShock 1 is a good controller. But, you know, it's actually, these are all the same controller. Come to think of it. For what they are, it's a revolutionary fine controller, right? It did the 2-stick thing before Nintendo did. It became the standard, right? Like, you could pick this controller up and understand it immediately. I don't dislike it by any means. And honestly, let's just be real with ourselves. The PlayStation 3... the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 controllers are literally just the same thing, right? Like, they were gonna go with this weird boomerang design, but they never did. They just said, we'll go back to the DualShock 2. We'll make it the DualShock 3. However, this thing does have gyro in it. It's actually a pretty damn good controller. But again, same controller. They're all good! The PS3 controller kind of sucks. What are you talking about? I don't believe that. PlayStation 4 controller. Okay. This is the first time we get a PlayStation controller that's actually different in any capacity. There is one thing I don't like about this controller. Actually, let's take a look at it. Let's really analyze this guy. So, the PlayStation 4 controller. That's a crusty picture. Why? What the? Okay. No, that's what it looked like. Why is this picture so strange? It looks like I'm looking at a bootleg of it. Whatever. So, the thing that kind of was weird to me about this is the DualShock 4. It's comfortable. The D-pad on it is odd. The sticks are small. And the buttons feel very, very flat. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but maybe it was just me. But the buttons always felt a little too short, in my opinion. And I'm super not a fan of these L and R buttons. They were small. Like R2 and like L2 were fine. But these little nubs right here, it's not... It's ergonomic, though, you know? It's an ergonomic controller for sure. I feel like the face buttons stick out enough. They stick out enough. I don't hate this one. I've played a lot of games on this. We're gonna put this in like a high B for now. Just to be safe. I don't have a super strong opinion on this controller. It exists. I wouldn't have it as my main controller. I know a lot of fighting game people do too. Also, the fucking touchscreen pad on the middle was useless. To me, it was just another button. Alright, I think that's... Oh, PlayStation 5. We have to... Let's actually look at this guy. I don't own one of these, but I have used one. So... To me, this is a stranger PS4 controller when I feel it. It is pretty damn comfy, though. Like... Oh, wait, that's like the super premium one. The few times I've actually used this thing... Though, I've actually only used it once, come to think of it. I played a little bit of Resident Evil 8 on this thing at a friend's house. Still don't like the L and R buttons. But this is a slick thing, man. This is a very ergonomic controller. And, aesthetically speaking, it actually... If you have a PS5 controller, you've probably noticed that, like, the rubber on it, if you look really close, it's actually, like, the button shapes. Which I think that's really, really nice. It would be disingenuous for me to put this in anything but A tier, honestly. Like, having just held it, it made me wish I had my own. The only reason I don't have a PS5 controller for my PC is because I have a different controller that I enjoy quite a bit. So, alright. I think we've gotten PlayStation out of the way. Let's look at Sega. I know a lot of you boys are Sega people, and you know what? In honor of Sega, let's put on what Sonic the Hedgehog game has the best soundtrack? Any of you Sonic people? We'll put on a good Sonic soundtrack. Maybe Sonic 3? Are we allowed to play Sonic 3 on stream? Sonic 3. Okay, you know what? We'll do Sonic 3. Sonic 3 soundtrack. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Okay. Oh, that's loud. Ah! Why is it so loud? Okay, we'll put on loop. You guys can still hear me, right? Hello. Alright. Let's do Sega. Where are the Sega controllers? There they are. Alright. We already did the Master System. It exists. It's a worse NES controller. That looks cool. It does look super cool. Alright, the big fat boy. The big fat 3-button Genesis controller. Let me look at it real quick. Genesis controller. Nice to have, like, a bigger picture. Finally, cultured my... Shut the fuck up. You're not wrong, though. But, alright. We got the fat 3-button boy right here. Damn good to hold. If you have big hands, this is a nice controller. This is a greasy looking fucking controller. It looks like they didn't clean it. Wow. Okay, here we go. That's a little crusty. Please, sir, can I get a picture of the Genesis controller that doesn't look horrific? 3-button. Please. Okay, you know what? Fine. This one works. Very shiny, but it's fine. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with this controller because my normal Sega controller is a 6-button. But I remember the D-pad being odd, but not bad. It's certainly nothing like the Master System D-pad. This thing is chunky as fuck, though. It is a big boy in your hands. You are holding something substantial when you've got this in your grippers, bro. I'm not super used to it, but it's not a bad controller in the slightest. Now, functionally speaking, it's not anywhere close to the SNES controller, right? And that makes sense because it was somewhere, like, in between the, like, NES and SNES, right? Feels good to hold. But functionally speaking... Oh, what the fuck? Wait, did I accidentally drop it somewhere? Nope, nope. I just clicked my thing in. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Like, I wouldn't want to play most games with it, but it's got its place. On that note, however, maybe I'm a little biased, but for me, this is the controller that I actually prefer. Oh yeah, you British people call it the Mega Drive. That is a cool name, by the way, I'm not gonna lie. That's one of those cases where I like both the UK and the American name. But Mega Drive just sounds awesome. Either way, when I think of a Sega controller, this is what I think of. It has like the fighting game layout that I really enjoy. The D-pad is the same weird, like, I don't know, it's like a cylinder. It's like a thick cylinder D-pad, you know? Did anything ever use those buttons? Yeah, Street Fighter. They made this button for Street Fighter because the original Genesis pad wasn't good enough. It's not as comfortable to hold, but I like it more, honestly. I'm gonna be... I'm gonna give this an A tier, honestly. Like, it's the Genesis controller to me. It feels good. You never... Most games never use this amount of buttons, especially, like, something like Sonic the Hedgehog. But I like it. People still use these kind of pad for Street Fighter now. I can imagine that. The only reason I wouldn't put it in S tier, though, either one of these, is because this controller just feels better in every single way. Like, it's much more ergonomic. And my proof of that is that literally every modern controller uses this layout. It's just nice to have, like, trigger buttons, you know? And that's the thing I don't like about the Genesis controller. Having L and R buttons is something that I don't think I could give up for certain games. Now, this is the Sega Saturn controller, isn't it? I gotta say, I fucking love the Sega Saturn controller. Let me look at it real quick. I know I've already ranked it, but... Oh! Oh, it didn't give me this one. I actually own this one. And the D-pad is not bad. It's not amazing. It exists. But it is a cool-looking controller, and it feels good to play, too. It feels just like a better Genesis controller, right? The buttons still have kind of the same shape, but they look a little bit better. They're not as concaved. Now, talking about the console itself is a different topic entirely. I have had the pleasure of holding one of these before. This is a nice controller. It seems like they've lumped in all three of them, but I'll put it in A tier. Very, very cool. Looks like the Discord logo. I never thought about that. It kind of does, doesn't it? Either way, neat controller. Alright. Oh, man. We got the, what is that, the Sega UFO controller? Now, your eyes may deceive you here. You may say, oh, Cake, what the fuck is this? This is a circle. Everything is a circle on this controller. But stow your preconceptions, because this right here is so comfortable. This is just a nice controller. The 3D controller, yep. Now, anyone that has this controller can tell you. This... I'm gonna put it as an honorary S tier. And I know, shocking, right? Like, what the fuck is this? It's round! It's circular! But if you've held it and played a game with it, you'd understand. You'd understand how comfortable this is. I would love to own one, actually. I don't have one. Ooh, the Dreamcast controller. Ooh, okay. All right. The Dreamcast is actually one of my favorite consoles ever. But we gotta talk about this seriously. First off, aesthetics. Holy fuck. Aesthetics are straight 10 out of 10. Oh, hang on. Let me, I'll take a drink, sure. I'm gonna need a drink after I talk about this thing. Here's one with the VMU. Let's look at it. Now, let's talk about the good things about this controller. Because I have my biases, but let's talk about the bad. Actually, good, bad, okay. We'll talk about the good first. One, it is a comfortable controller to hold, right? It looks fucking weird, and the ridges in the back are a little thin, but I do enjoy holding this controller. It's just, it feels cool to hold, you know what I mean? The buttons are fine. It only has one start button. The D-pad is weird. It is a chunky D-pad. It's like tall. It looks normal, but it sticks out quite a bit. The VMU is awesome. A cool little thing. Basically its own miniature console. Here's a picture of it separately. This is the memory card, but you could play little games on it. Right? I love this thing. And it has good L and R buttons too. It has good triggers. Now, that being said, it has some huge fucking problems that we cannot ignore. As much as I love this controller. One, the D-pad is... You thought the Nintendo 64 D-pad was uncomfortable. Ooh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Put your thumb on the ridge of this death trap, and you will realize just how sharp this motherfucker is. This thing is not a good D-stick, or it's not a good joystick in the slightest, right? It is functional, absolutely. It'll work, but they really needed to, like, make it a bit nicer, right? Like, I wish there was a picture, Dreamcast controller joystick. Sorry, I keep mixing up words. Let's see if I can get, like, a good view of it. What the hell is that? What in God's name? I kind of like it. But the big innovation word on it makes me feel like I'm looking at a baby's toy. Alright. I want to find, like, a proper... See, somebody just put a whole-ass new stick over it. They know. I can't find a good picture of it, but just understand. The stick, really, really bad on it. But besides that, besides the stick and some weirdness and the thing coming out the bottom that they know is bad, so they literally have a thing that you could slot it into that, I don't know. I love this controller, but being quite honest, it's a B tier controller. It's like a high B, right? For me personally, it's an A. But in the grand scheme of things, it is a B tier controller. A very, very high B tier controller. Not a good go-to for playing, like, your average game. And yeah, nostalgia is a factor. But the fact that it only has one stick at this time, because this was around the time that this bad boy came out, right? And if you weren't up to the standards of this guy right here, the PS2 controller, you were losing. Alright, what do we got? That was, sadly, that was the last Sega pad. Okay. Let's do Xbox. The Duke controller. Does it have the two... hang on. Xbox Duke controller. I know it was originally just called, like, the controller, but... Alright, this guy. Some of you like this controller, okay? And I understand. There's a lot to like about it. It's big, it's bold, you know, it's got the big-ass logo on the front. Let's look at it from the front, though. This thing is actually too big. It is not super comfortable for me to hold. Even with my long hands, I'll call them long. That's a good way to describe my hands. This has never felt good in my hands. The D-stick, first off, both of the, why do I keep calling it a D-stick? They should just call it a D-stick. Fuck it. I'm right. I'm correct. But the joysticks, I never liked how they were, like, different. Like, one is more open concave than the other one. The buttons are just really weird. Like, they're really vertical, and then these are, like, slightly... I don't know. And this D-pad, good lord. What do you even call this? This isn't a D-pad. This is a blob. A directional blob. A dlod. A glob? I don't know. Formless. Shapeless. Pathetic. But it works. That's the important part. It's not a comfortable controller, but it works. However, I'm putting it in D tier. D for Duke. I think that's fitting. We'll put it in like a high D tier. The layout is literally just a Genesis layout, but awkwardly placed. D for D-stick. Alright. So, Xbox 360 controller, we did talk about that. If it had a better D-pad, it would be like A tier, right? No Xbox controller is going to hit past B tier for me because of the horrific D-pad. The Dutch S controller. I'm going to assume you've all handled an Xbox 360 controller. It's fine. Very good for its time. I'd argue that even the Xbox 360 controller is even more comfortable than the PS2 controller. Or PS3. But, again, shitty D-pad. They all start to kind of look the same. Oh, hang on, here's the revision. I actually want to take a look at this. Xbox. Because I have used this before, too. Show me the modern ones. Ugh. Okay, here we go. I've used both of these. It does have a slightly better D-pad. They're calling it the Duchess now. I love that. This is more designed for human hands. They have matching joysticks. The start and select buttons are over here for some reason, which is just why. And then these two buttons are down here, which I imagine is really gonna fuck up your gameplay flow if there's a game that relies on it. But I also don't recall a lot of games using it. They're just there. I don't know. It's better than the Duke, that's for sure, but it's still got oddities that kind of don't... We'll put it in like a C. Just because it's better than the Duke. Alright. This clown-ass music? What the fuck? I forgot the Virtual Boy controller! Oh my god! Okay. Hang on. We have to talk about this. I can't even believe I forgot about this. Alright. This boy right here. Now, say what you want about the Virtual Boy, okay? Have you ever held one of these controllers? I've held the controller. I've never played a Virtual Boy game. I really want to. I'd love to own a Virtual Boy, actually. One day. One day. Once, I'll look into getting one at some point. But I have had the pleasure of holding this controller. This controller is so comfortable. It is very ergonomic for what it is. It is like a skinny GameCube controller. It has these like round L and R buttons, but they actually feel pretty good. I don't know, it's not bad. It's a very comfortable controller. I wouldn't use it for other games, but just in terms of ergonomics, like, I gotta put it up here with B. Like a high B. It's good. It's a good controller. What ruins the controller feels the battery. It is a little heavy. I won't deny that. But it feels good to hold, and I have held one. One day I'll play a real Virtual Boy, and I'll burn my eyes out. Alright, back to Xbox, though. Back to Xbox. So, this is the revision of the 360 controller, I believe. Isn't this exactly the same? It looks the same. Is there any difference? I actually had this controller. It's not bad whatsoever. But I can't recall it being... Oh, it's just wireless. This is the wireless version. It's the same. It's the same as this, just wireless. Okay. I can't even tell some of these apart. I think, with the 360 controller, then there's the Xbox One controller, which I think is... Let me look it up real quick, because they start to just look the same. It's fine. The clown music is fine. Xbox wireless controller. Okay, so... I guess this one? They look the same! What's the difference? I don't know. I will be honest with you, though. I'm really not a big fan of the Xbox One controller. And... It's not bad in the slightest. It works with every game that you play. It is the default controller, right? I used it for a very long time with my PC. For some reason, the Bluetooth never worked, so I had to use it wired. But the gray controller is the Elite controller. They look the fucking same! This is the same. I'm just gonna put them in the same tier. The circus music makes everything you say sound way sillier. I'm glad. Okay, well, this is the Xbox One controller. I can't even fucking tell. It works perfectly fine. That's all I can say about it. I think it's a little too heavy. I personally am not a fan of super heavy controllers. And this guy is the heaviest motherfucker of a controller I've ever held. The D-pad is glossy and slippery. Everything else about it is fine. It exists. I'll put it in B tier just for the sake of it being it exists. The Elite is like $100, but it feels the same. I don't know. It's an Xbox controller. What the fuck else do you have to say? This guy. This is like the Premiere Pro version, right? It has like back paddles. It has this horrifying D-pad. I don't know. Wait, Xbox 360 transforming D-pad. What are you talking about? Transforming D-pad. This is new to me. Oh, I remember this. It's not like any of your options were good. You know, it's still an Xbox 360 D-pad. I guess it's okay. It's better than what they have. I don't know. I don't have much to say about the Xbox controllers. They feel the same. The D-pad is always the biggest piece of shit possible. It's like they make a bad D-pad out of spite, you know? All they'd have to do, give it a matte finish. That's all you'd have to do. But, I don't... This one has an even worse D-pad. I'm putting it in C. Because one, it costs $800. I don't ever use the back paddles. No one really needs this controller, you know? I don't know anyone with this controller. Okay, we are now entering the weird stuff here. So, is that the CDI controller? Let's there's like several of these things. Okay. I've actually held these before, right? Oh, Goomba, so, since you asked, these are all variants of the CDI controller. One of them is a mouse, the spoon, and then the two normal controllers, where one is Genesis and SNES. And, This controller it exists. I can't say much about it. It's fine. This is a piece of shit, but it's not really meant for playing games, even though that's all you have mostly. I don't like the way this thing feels. And I'll tell you why. It is almost an SNES controller, but they wanted to feel different. They wanted to get goofy, so they made it they made it bump up like this, where it's just like, oh, down, up, like it's an S. Except that when you rest your fingers on it, it doesn't feel good at all. It also doesn't help that there are no fun games on this thing. Have you ever tried to play a game on a CDI? They don't feel good. None of them feel good. I've actually tried to play, like, Zelda. And, ugh. Do they have a... Okay, you can screw in, like, a joystick or something, right? That probably just makes it worse. CDI games are expensive as shit. What is this guy? Oh, it's a remote with a stick. Incapable of making a decent controller. This guy, though... Where did he go? Where'd you go, you motherfucker? I didn't already put him in the list, did I? Am I blind? Did I accidentally throw him somewhere? He's gone. He's hiding from me. It's at the top? Where did I put him? Oh, because it was different colors. Oh. See, I was looking at the black one. I wasn't looking at the Saturn colored ones. This controller is... It's an SNES controller, but bad. Alright. Ooh, the Neo Geo controller. This thing has a really fun, clicky joystick. Let's actually look at it real quick. Neo Geo controller. Tee-hee-hee-hee. Alright. Now, this is a weird little guy, right? This is definitely its own controller. But if you've ever used this joystick, you know. You know. You know how good it feels. Playing arcade games with this thing is awesome. This is... what? Wait, where did I put it? No. I keep clicking down. This is an A-tier controller, honestly. Does it adapt well to other things? No. But it's comfortable. It has the weird clicky little joystick pad thingy. This is what I wish the circle pad on the 3DS was. A-tier. This is an A-tier controller. Alright. We should get through the normal controllers before we start getting through weird peripherals. Is that the Amazon Luna? I've never used it before. It looks like the most generic controller you can find. I'm sure it feels like whatever. It exists. It's a C. I'm never going to use Amazon Luna in my life, but you know how this controller feels, just looking at it. What was this guy again? The Plippin controller? I just want to look at it. I have no idea what it feels like. But, could someone tell me the name of this guy? It's in between my ears. The Pippen. Alright, let's type it in. Pippen controller. Whoa! What is this for? What console is this for? For Macintosh? Oh! It's the Apple thing! Oh, that's strange. Oh, mamma mia. That is weird. The D-pad is just a big mushy circle. It looks like it has a... like a... What do you call the ball? What do you call that? It's actually at the tip of my tongue. The trackball! It's a trackball! It's a trackball. Okay. It has a trackball in the middle. This is what it looks like on top? What the fuck is this? It's kind of cool. I kind of like how it looks. It looks like the PS3 controller. Oh, it's tiny. This is a small man of a controller. I can't... Okay. I want to talk about the Guitar Hero controllers in a second, but let's get through the joysticks first. This is the Google Stadia. Now, I know what we all think about the Google Stadia as a concept. The controller itself is round. That's all I can describe it as. It is a round controller. I did not want to go to that. As a controller, there's really nothing bad about it. The D-pad is a little weird, but it's not horrible. It's not as bad as the Xbox D-pad. This is simply a game controller. Can you still use this as like a USB controller? You cannot service or repair this controller. That's true. I've held it. I've never played a game with it. But it doesn't feel bad whatsoever. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B. Like, as a piece of as a thing that you hold in your hand and play video games with, it is absolutely fine. Stadia itself is a whole nother thing. But either way, I actually put this one in myself. Because this is my controller. This is actually what I use, but we'll get back to that. This is the Ouya. This is a... I want to actually take a look at it. The Ouya. I have held this thing once. All I can really describe it is the worst of all worlds. Not in an offensively horrible way, but in the way that's like, y'all didn't get a single thing right about this, did you? You know? It's like they took the worst traits of every controller and just kind of made it into one controller. Not a good controller. Functional, sure, but I'm gonna put it in E, honestly. It's, out of all these controllers, I'd rather use it instead of this guy. It is pretty ugly. It's a bit cramped, too. I remember it not feeling great on my hands. Funny they were bragging about this controller, too. Yeah, I do recall that. But having held one, it feels cheap and cramped and ugly. Alright, this... I know I've talked about this controller before, but this is the 8-Bit Do Ultimate controller. I want to show you guys this real quick. Now, where's the pink one? Pink. This controller right here is my default controller now. And, oh yeah, no, it's a stand. So if you guys have ever used a, if you use an 8-Bit Do controller, you know that it usually has like a little, like, 2.4 gigahertz dongle or whatever. This is the PC version, by the way. You can get one for Switch as well. But the reason I like this is, one, it's wireless, right? The charging stand has a little dongle in it. And it pretty much works for everything. It has kind of an in-between feeling of an Xbox One controller and a Switch Pro controller. The D-pad is literally an SNES D-pad. It's a tiny bit stiff, but perfectly usable. The way that I test all controllers is I play through Super Mario World on them, right? Like, if I want to test a 2D controller, this thing works wonderfully. It works with almost everything, right? Every game I've played on Steam, it works perfectly with. And the reason I got this controller was because I was tired of using my Xbox One controller, because it's like too heavy, and it was also corded, and I was just tired of wrestling with a cord. But it's got the D-pad I've always wanted. It has Xbox 360 type buttons. The only thing it doesn't work for is Project 64, which is not its fault. Project 64 has some issues that it needs to work out. Also, if you want to get a Switch version, they do have one specifically that's for the Switch where it has the Nintendo button layout, I very heartily recommend this controller, right? I'm going to put it in, like, high A tier. Because, you know, I'm putting it in S tier. I'll just say it. This thing right here, while I like using the Pro Controller for the Switch, I already have one. If I didn't have this, I'd easily use this. The only thing you can't do is wake up the Switch. And again, my only actual issue with it is that it doesn't work with Project 64. But I've played Cyberpunk with it, I've played Uncharted with it, I've played all kinds of things with it. Oh, and pretty much every Mario game I've played with it. I've played through Mario 64 multiple times with this guy. I've played through a bunch of 2D Mario games with this controller. It's just a great controller that works for everything. So, easy S tier for me. How do the shoulder buttons hold up? They feel fine. They feel good. They're nothing like super special to write home about like the GameCube controller, but they work. So, that is my wholehearted recommendation if you want to get a controller that just works, is get this guy. I have the pink one, and I have it with the, I have the 2.4 gigahertz one, but you can get a Bluetooth one with the Nintendo layout if you really want to. Easy. Okay. So, what the fuck? What is that guy? I saw LGR talk about this guy before. What is it called? I want to look at it. It's called the something, like, 360, right? What is this thing called? Somebody please tell me. I really want to take a look at it. That's what a Saturn controller looks like? This is a Saturn controller. It's one of the Saturn controllers. This is also a Saturn controller. Let me see if I can zoom in. Where'd you go? Yeah, it's this guy. Space Orb 360. Space Orb. This is a controller I've never used. I've seen LGR talk about it before. Yep. What a weird looking thing. I imagine this ball getting so dusty. The ball twister. This thing looks like Bop It if it was a game controller. Like, I've never held it. Also, why did they do an upside down picture? They put the grossest picture they could for this guy. I'm gonna put it in the mystery tier. All right. Oh, hang on. I forgot about this guy. Now, this would get an F tier because it's not actually a controller. It's a toy, but some guy modded it to work. Anyways, all right. We gotta talk about the mice controllers. Right, because we have the SNES mice and like PlayStation mice. I don't know. I've only ever emulated Mario Paint, and I've held this controller before. For what it was fine. As a mouse now, I wouldn't want to use it. But it's a mouse, you know. I'm putting in P for Pong. It works perfectly well as a mouse. Cake, I'm gonna have to ask you to react to the Mattel Hyperscan controller. Okay, we can do that. Mattel Hyperscan controller. Let's take a look. Ugh! Oh no! This is like... This is what a game controller looks like to someone who has heard of one. This is like if clip art of a game controller was made real. Oh my goodness gracious me. This thing looks very uncomfortable. The buttons are square. Okay, those actually look like some chonky L&R buttons, though. The buttons look yummy. I want to eat them. Like, I want to take a bite. They look like they taste good. They come in multiple fruit flavors. Now, Why are the L and R triggers are so tiny on this guy? Also, the start and select button, I guess them being vertical is weird, but it's fine. It's whatever. I don't know. It looks like clip art. It looks like someone generated a game controller. Hang on, we can, I think we can put it on the list. Okay. I've never held this guy. But it's probably gonna be an E tier. Quite honestly. It doesn't look very... It looks like it works. But, you know, it looks... I'd use it above these. I don't know. It gets a high E tier. It looks like trash, but it looks like it works. Oh, hang on. There's a very important controller that we didn't search up. We have to pay respects to the one of the goats, okay? Genuinely one of the goats. The Logitech PC game controller, made famous by a particular incident recently. S for submarine. Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Made famous by the fact that it's such a good controller that they piloted a submarine with it. I will say, genuinely though, it is a good controller, like unironically. We're gonna go ahead and put it on there. It's not a good looking controller, but it deserves to be up here. The sub blew up because, not because of the controller, but because of other things. The controller itself is quite good. I'm gonna put up here with these. I would rather use this controller over a Wii U Pro controller, okay? I'm putting it up here even. If you've handled it, you know. You know it's a good controller. Alright. We're getting into the weird, we're getting into the end of the list. The weird controllers. Let's see. DDR. Now, I like DDR. I'm not very good at it. But these pads, they were either slippery as fuck or sticky as hell, and there was no in between. It worked for what you did with it, but I've never been a fan of mats on the floor. Never been a fan. And this one in particular, just... They also don't last very long. That's another thing. We're gonna put this in like a low C tier. It's a controller that worked, you know? It was fine. I had to wear socks with it. Okay, tell me I'm crazy. Or actually, you know what? Confirm to me if I'm crazy or not, okay? I went over to my friend's house, and he had DDR, right? He was a big fucking weeb like I was. And he was like, hey, let's play DDR. And I'm like, okay, do I wear socks or barefoot? He's like, I just play barefoot, right? I'm like, okay, I suppose I'll play barefoot too. So, when I played barefoot, my feet stuck to it like crazy, right? It was really hard to play because every time I'd, like, you know, put my foot down, it would always bring the pad up with me. And I got made fun of for it, even though I was told by the person who uses it that's like, oh, I just do it barefoot. I felt so bad. I felt gross. But that's a universal experience, right? You all wear socks when you play this, right? Because I started wearing socks after that, and it was better. But it still feels slippery. I don't know. That guy was crazy, don't get me wrong. Great guy. I haven't seen him in a while. But he's a strange individual. Alright. Oh, I didn't even know there was a PlayStation mouse. PlayStation mouse. What do you play with a PlayStation mouse? Have you guys ever even seen one of these before? What do you do with it? Hang on, let's go to Wikipedia. Oh god, there's a bunch of games that you can use the mouse with. Let's see. Arcade's Greatest Hit, Breakout, Die Hard Trilogy, Dracula, The Resurrector. So I guess point-and-click games? Maybe? And it looks like a lot of point-and-click games, and then, like, arcade shooters, you know? Which, playing an arcade shooter with a mouse, I mean... Kids don't understand the struggle back then. For us old people playing, when we first found emulators with this kind of stuff, we were using a mouse to shoot. It worked, but it's not a bad-looking mouse. I'm gonna put it next to the SNES one, just because it's a mouse, you know? You use it as it looks more comfortable than the SNES mouse. RPG Maker, it's probably extremely useful for RPG Maker, not gonna lie. You know what? Let's go ahead and cover the blasters, okay? We already talked about the NES Zapper, it's fun. The Super Scope. Now, let's get the nice thing to say out of the way, okay? It looks cool. It's a bazooka, right? It has a little shoulder pad. You wear it kind of over your shoulder. The button's on top. It's got this grip. I fucking hate the Super Scope. As much as I like it as an item in Smash, and I like the way it looks, I hate holding this thing. I hate playing with it in real life. It's so uncomfortable, right? Why is the trigger not here? It's like, oh, it's a bazooka. The bazooka, real bazookas have the thing on top. I want to shoot. I want to shoot with a trigger. It's so uncomfortable. And again, that's just my opinion. But this is not a fun way to play a game. I don't know, it makes me just wish I used a normal zapper. Alright, Corey's gonna make me play with a Super Scope. Alright, fair enough. Alright, see you later, name I can't pronounce. It was nice seeing you. Super Scope is... It's definitely not up here. It works. I'm putting it in D tier, though, honestly. Oh, no, that's P tier. I'm putting it in D tier. Because it's just... I don't know. I prefer, like, a gun. Having this kind of dig into your shoulders sort of sucks. The Sega Master, however... Sega Master... Oh, I typed in the wrong thing. This right here, this is more like what I would have wanted with a Super Scope. This thing is so much better than the Super Scope. It's an actual gun, but it still has like all the cool aesthetics of the Super Scope, you know? I've played with one before too, and it's fun. It's not quite as... I'll put in B. You know what? B for Menacer. It's comfy, it's cool. When you hold it, you look like a real man, you know? I fuck with it. Alright, we gotta get these out of the way. These are literally just the PlayStation Move controllers, right? One of them has like a D-pad. Okay, so there's one with like a weird little joystick. Navigation. This is when they tried to make their own Wii. And, maybe it's just my experience, but I had a horrible experience with these. Like, they don't register correctly, you know? The ping pong game just didn't work super well that I played. I don't like these, man. The balls are kind of fun, you know, because it's all colorful and whatever. But these are easily, like, both in the D tier for me. I just don't like these. Someone draw PB with a super scope and piss cake. That wouldn't piss me off. The super scope looks cool as fuck, but actually playing with it is not fun at all. That's what I'm saying, you know? But, okay, as far as PlayStation Move controllers, it's a D. They're not special. It makes you wish you were using a Wiimote. They're technically more comfortable, but they don't feel as good to play, and they just don't register as well either. Alright, we have, I really want to get into the Guitar Hero controllers. So, but first we gotta talk about the Kinect. These are two different Kinects, aren't they? I know that one of them is really shitty and one of them is good. I can't remember which one though. These are both like, maybe that's a camera actually. Kinect. Actually, let's type in Xbox camera to see. Kinect. So, wait, one of them is for the Xbox One and the round one is for the 360. Okay. Now, the Kinect is an unfortunate piece of technology because it's so ahead of its time in every way, but not done super well. It doesn't always register you, but when it does, it's super cool. Honestly, as far as video games go, they're not great. They were a really neat idea. They're more useful for, like, medical technology, so Xbox accidentally created, like, one of the best medical tools ever. Video game-wise, it's like, we'll put it in the same tier as, like, I had more fun with it, but it messes up a lot, you know? It's so wonky. I remember playing one, they have this one not Wii Sports game made by Rare that uses the weird little Xbox avatars. And that game just feels so janky, you know? It's fun, it kind of works, but put it above. I'll put it more like right here, yeah. It's shit, but it's fun shit. Alright, I don't even know what this is. I think it's some kind of karaoke thing. But let's talk about the Guitar Hero controllers, okay? They've lumped all of these together, which is not entirely fair, because not all Guitar Hero controllers are made equal. Actually, I wonder if we can do all official Guitar Hero controller. I wonder if there's like a picture of all of them together, you know? Almost? It's missing a few. Like the Wii one, which is the best one. But I want to get a more comprehensive look at these. Now these... Not that one, not you. But these are excellent. And it's one of those things that the build quality only got better over time. Right? DJ Hero, we'll talk about DJ Hero. I'll add DJ Hero to the list. So, these two, the OG Guitar Hero controllers, I had this one, but I've played one of this. I played this before. This is supposed to be a Gibson SG, and this one is more so like a real one, I guess. Great controller. I love them. This is where we all learned how to play Guitar Hero. I am so fucking jealous of this controller because the Explorer is my favorite guitar of all time. I'd love to own a real one someday. But Xbox... I didn't have an Xbox 360 when this came out. So, like, Xbox people got the best controller ever. And it also plugs in directly to your computer, so you can play it with Clone Hero and stuff. I don't know why the Les Paul is after this one, because it came first. But this is actually my main Guitar Hero controller that I use for, like, playing online and stuff. I have an adapter that plugs right into the Wii slot. This thing is so well built. It is hefty. It is a chunky, high-quality boy. And when I pulled it out, mine was actually covered in soot. What is this song is just percussion. What is this song? What is this called? I'm skipping this. Alright. So. Love this guy. The Gibson Explorer. Or, I'm sorry, the Gibson... The Les Paul. And then the other ones after it are fine, too. They exist. There's no real bad official controller. But I love Guitar Hero, so Guitar Hero for me... For just being like a peripheral that you use, it's fun. I'll put it in C tier, though, just as... You know, because obviously it doesn't apply to anything but Guitar Hero controller, you know? I wonder if Guitar Hero will ever have a comeback. Well, let me answer that for you. No, because they fucked it up. Now, the next one on this list is the Guitar Hero Live controller. Okay? Now, the thing that makes this controller very fucking strange is that instead of the 6-button layout, instead of the... Where is it? Instead of the 5-button layout that's, like, kind of vertical, or I should say, yeah, that's vertical, they stack... In order to make it, I guess, a little bit more complicated, they make it, like, 6-button, and meaning that you have to learn, like, a whole new way to play Guitar Hero, which doesn't match the others. And this is one of those cases where you really don't want to have to reteach people how to play, like, a new version of Guitar Hero, right? You can't use this thing for any, like, Clone Hero anything, unless you mod it heavily. This thing fucking sucks. This is an F tier thing. Everything about Guitar Hero Live is bad. Everything about it. You also can't access 90% of the game now, because everything was done online. So, bad controller. It actually killed the series. Guitar Hero Live is what happens when they want to bring back a game, but they don't know why people like it. Now, we have a special one here, which is the DS Guitar Hero controller. It works, but good lord is it uncomfortable. This is a hand cramp just waiting to happen. Hang on. Like, the way that it works, it's a cool idea. You strum the, you strum the touchpad with the little pick that you get. The death grip you have to have on your DS, yeah. No. This is how you hold it. You can already tell. I bet just looking at this, your hand is starting to hurt. It's a fun idea. But fuck, man. Ugh. No. It gets... But because it's just a cute little thing, it hurts your hand, but it doesn't destroy an entire series. So, alright. We have to... We are now at the end of our list. We have to determine what is the greatest controller of all time. Okay? It's time. Out of all of these, add a row above. Oh, hang on. The God tier. As is customary with these streams. Let's go ahead and make it like blue or something. Alright. What is the God tier controller, okay? We have all these. They all have their pros and cons, right? For example, oh, hang on, let me move it so you guys can see it. So, SNES controller, the best 2D controller, and also the controller that every single controller copies, right? Amazing for 2D games. Any 2D game that you want to play that doesn't need a stick, use this thing. Perfect. GameCube. For its time, a god-tier controller. It is missing features that make it essential for using it now for other games, like universally. Its ergonomics cannot be denied, though. And the Wavebird is just the same thing, so, you know, whatever. The 8-bit Do controller, my personal recommendation. It does almost everything I want it to. As far as a modern controller goes, this is the controller, right? I do need to loosen up the D-pad a little bit. Incredibly good. The Switch Pro controller, comfortable as hell, functions very, very nicely. One of those just melts in your hand controllers. Some people don't like the rubber on the grips, but I really like it. Everything about this controller except for the D-pad I enjoy. If it had a better D-pad, it would be the best controller I've ever used. And as the honorary S rank, the weird one, the UFO Saturn controller, just because of how damn comfortable it is, right? Realistically speaking, it's an A. But man, I love that controller. Now, the question is, what controller gets to be God tier? And I think there's only one answer. We were all thinking it in the back of our heads. But there's only one controller that could possibly be in God tier. And that, my friends, is the Mad Catz GameCube controller. Let's go, baby! Nothing beats this guy. For me, personally, it's won 3 tournaments. The stick has completely deteriorated, but it still works. No controller is as good as the Mad Catz GameCube controller. And that is the definitive final list. Let's take a look at it in all its glory. Just so you can witness greatness, alright? It's like a GameCube controller, but somehow even better. It has ridges for maximum grip. It has slightly smaller buttons that are not quite as comfortable. It has the stick that deteriorates more than any other stick I've used, to the point where it's just a nub in the middle, a plastic nub. It's got a D-pad that's slightly bigger. Oh, and it gets incredibly greasy and dusty over time, and that is why undisputed? It's undisputed, right? It is the best controller ever made. And that's just how it is. Do you recall how much you paid / got for one of these? I received it as a child because my original controller got chewed up. So this is all I had. Much to dispute? I don't think so, my friend. I don't think so. And with that, I think we've reached the end of our list. We just went 12 minutes over the normal time. Thank you guys for coming to the controller tier list. I've been wanting to actually do this for a really long time because I love thinking about game controllers. And next time we do a tier list, I'd actually like to do consoles. So if you're interested in that, let me know. You're uninvited to MFF? I don't think so, man. What am I uninvited for? For being correct? I don't think so. Alright. Thank you guys for coming. I will stream again real soon. Probably Sunday, Bunday, as usual. I gotta stream more, man. I gotta stream more. I really do. But yeah, I guess I'll see you guys later. Is there anyone we can raid before I go, Corey? Because I wanna raid someone. Thank you. Seriously love your streams. Well, thank you for coming, Camperine. Jomes is streaming? Is Jomes actually streaming? If Jomes is streaming, I'll stream Jomes, but I don't know if he's online. Corey, give me a name. Give me a name and I'll raid him. Let's raid Jones. If Jones is streaming, we gotta raid Jones. You know what? I'll just check in my other little window that I have up. He's not streaming for me. What the fuck? You know what? Let's go ahead and raid Moxie, because he's playing... Corey, can you get Moxie's, name for me, please? Oh, golly. Moxie has, like, a bunch of X's. But yeah, stick around. I'm gonna go ahead and raid Moxie. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming, and I will see you later.